Okay, now the fun stuff. So hopefully at this point you've already gone through the tutorial showing you how to bring your edit into DaVinci using XML. If not, go to the tutorial that comes just after this one. Just go down one tutorial and watch how to bring an XML into, or export an XML from Final Cut and Premiere Pro and bring them into DaVinci and or After Effects. In this case, what we're going to do is, let me show you very quickly. Let's go hit Alt-Shift-N, or on a, that's on a PC, on Mac it's Option-Shift-N. And this is the raw footage. So if we were to scrub through this or to play it, if I hit the space bar, it'll play through. You can see we have a shot here. This is in a bar. This is actually, if you're in LA, this is at Delancey on Sunset in Hollywood. And they had this really great rack back here with all these wine bottles and liquor bottles and a light behind it, which creates this really cool amber. And then, of course, they have daylight balanced flows in the kitchen back here. So what I did was I gelled this a little bit to make it a little bit more bluer than it was, because it was kind of coming out a little green because there was daylight and regular fluorescent, which was kind of a fluorescent green. So I used some minus green to get this all blue. And then used a CFL soft light based light to light his face. And then of course on the bar you can see this highlight here. On the bar in front of him here is a off-the-shelf 2-foot flow bar. So I got this shot here. It looks pretty well white balanced, but if you look very carefully here at the scopes, oops, wrong one, you can see that it's actually a little green. If we look, there's a little bit too much red here in his face, and green, and not enough blue. So this is not really balanced. I got red, green, blue coming across on the skin tone, which tells me that it's going to be it's not going to be the perfect skin tone for what I want. So I'm going to put this back off screen. So what I want to do is I want to do some selective color correction. So what I did was, if you look here, by the way, this Predator vision thing here, it almost looks like false color. This is a result of having an ATI video card on my system. If I had a NVIDIA, I wouldn't be having this problem. And you have to be careful that you fix this problem. And the Blackmagic people are telling me that to do that, I have to upgrade to Mountain Lion because the video driver does not want to behave under Lion. But I wanted to make sure that I got all these tutorials out to you now, so I have not upgraded yet. But you'll see that as I move around, some of that disappears, like right here. This is what the footage actually looks like. But if you're not careful, it'll actually render out with that weird looking Predator vision. So you do want to make sure that that you get your system optimized correctly according to what Blackmagic tells you. So here's the final grade, and let's go ahead and walk through what I have done here, and turn all these off one by one so you can see. Let's go backwards. You can see I have a spectral enhancer on here. That's a gear. I've got density. I've got a power window on his face. I've got toner, steel blue, and then I have some selective color correction here on the amber tones and the teal tones, which if we go back to this, you can see this isn't really teal. It's kind of a light blue, and this is sort of a light amber, but it's not as heavy as what I ended up with, which is this. So to get that, let's back up. So the spectral enhancer boosts my saturation across the board. Density obviously darkens it up a little bit. The power window fixes his skin tone from this icky green. Toner desaturates the image a little bit. You can see that this is even more icky here, and this is coming from the steel blue. And you're like, well, why did you apply steel blue if it was going to get all icky? Well, I want the steel blue for everything else, but I want to separate his face out of the grade to get a nice skin tone out of it. You can see I've got decent skin tone here, but it's too dark, and it's not really what I want. But I've also got, at this point, all I have is the amber and the teal separated out. If I turn off the amber, you can see that gets muted, and this is our original footage right here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk through and show you how to get this grade starting from nothing. And I did something here that I want to duplicate for your eyes so you can see exactly how the grade was done. But normally what I would do is the teal and the amber would be done on something called a parallel node. So let's go ahead and go to the blank one. And I would go to nodes and add parallel node. And now you can see what I would do is I would actually do the amber on one and the teal on the other. And then those would mix together into this grade here. And then of course I would add serial. Oops, not there though. To add a serial node, you hit Option S. And now and serial just means just what you would think, just like a serial killer or a series, is it adds nodes in succession. So the way that ColorGear works, hopefully you've watched the precision grading tutorial so you understand exactly how ColorGear works. If not, you'll probably want to go do that now. But I will try to explain the bulk of it here. Is that ColorGear is a very precise, each gear is a very precise grade. And by that I mean there's a set of operations. There's probably, sometimes there's one operation, sometimes there's 4 or 5, up to like 12 operations inside of each gear. And those operations are performed in such a way that the histogram, if we were to go to the scopes here, that the histogram remains even across the board. And what I mean by that is you can see that I've got a full highlight reading, a full shadow reading. You can see this is a very dark scene, so obviously everything is weighted into the shadows. But your histogram remains even across the board, which means I have information in my shadows, midtones, and highlights for as long as possible. And what that does is it allows very flimsy codecs like DSLRs, this was shot on a hacked GH2, but it allows those codecs to remain intact for longer, which means that eventually you will have to imbalance, to do some grades, you will have to imbalance this to make it work. But if you can maintain the integrity for long enough into the process to where that it doesn't actually bend or break, then your footage won't break down. You won't get that macro blocking and that weird sort of color smearing that you'd sometimes get from different codecs. And you would absolutely get using a 3-way color corrector in something like Final Cut or something like that, which is why using ColorGear in Final Cut or using ColorGear in Premiere Pro will allow your integrity of your image to retain its shape for longer until you actually have to bend it. But then you only have to bend it just a little bit and your codec won't break down. So that's the power of ColorGear. But in this particular case, our nodes are going to lead one into the other. And so if I didn't cover it before, your image input starts here, your image output leaves here. So think of it as the image here flows into this, this sort of input module, which flows through all the nodes, gets color corrected as it steps through, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you even have numbers here. 1, and this is 3, but this is essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then through the output module, and then back off screen and into your footage here. So think of it that way. So the footage gets plugged into here, runs through all of this, and then comes out here and back into the window here. If you were in After Effects, this would be essentially from bottom to top. In other words, your footage would be on the bottom, it would run through the adjustment layers, out the top into the viewer. If you're in Final Cut, your footage would start here and it's actually top to bottom. So your footage would come here, it would run down through LUT Buddy and out the bottom back into the viewer. And in Premiere Pro, it would start at the bottom, run through all the adjustment layers, out the top into the viewer. And in SpeedGrade, again, it would be bottom to top. So it would start at the bottom, run through all the layers, and then out the top into the viewer. So hopefully that clears up a few things for you. And it's essential that you understand this workflow and understand that what happens is the image gets shoved through these corrections here, and then once this correction is processed, it is dumped into the next correction, and then this correction processes that image and then dumps it into the next. And the reason that you would want to do it this way and not just layer on a bunch of stuff in one node is that sometimes you want to perform one operation to the image, and then you want to work on all of that, everything you did in another operation. And what that gives you is, it gives you more precise control over the image. And sometimes you want to separate out. Like if we were to go back, you'll see that at this particular point, I did a power window on the skin. So if I were to turn these all back on, there's the teal, the amber, the steel blue gear, the toner gear, the power window on the face, the density, and the spectral enhancer. And let's see if I can get rid of the predator vision. Okay. The reason I wanted to power window his face at this point is, look at his skin tone. It's really, really green, which fits within the context of the scene, but nobody likes skin tone this color. So I was able to actually, at this point in the chain, separate out the face, give him a more natural skin tone by applying a mask, which you see here. If I select this gear, double click it to select, you can see I've got a mask on his skin, and I tracked it. So if we go through the tracking data, you can see that, it tracks to his skin, it sticks the whole time, and I will show you how to do that in this tutorial. And most of the corrections, now there are, you can keyframe your mask shape if you use one of these masks here. Well, any mask really, but this one is for like complicated shapes, and you can keyframe them here in the keyframe editor. But from about 95% of the grades that you're going to do, a simple oval or square power window on an object tracked with DaVinci's tracker will get you where you want to go. Okay, so let's begin. Let's go back to our blank one here, and let's go to our first node, and we want to go to the HSL selector here. And I'm going to turn the highlight function on, and what this is going to do is it's going to show me just what I have selected. Go to the color picker, and I'm selecting, I said teal. I should probably right click here and change the label to teal. There we go. So I want to select this here, and you can see that it's selecting just those areas. And now I can broaden that out. So now that I have this selected, now I can go in and okay, now I want to soften this up, probably there. Definitely want to soften this up. Let's drag that out to about, and there, and let's see. And then let's soften this up to like about there. And then okay, that's giving me pretty much just the teal colors, and it's leaving the white that's in here alone. And then of course, I want to sort of back this off. You can see I can shrink this and offset it. And there, and now just the teal is selected. It's nice and soft. And let's blur it just a little bit. There we go. There, nice and smooth. Let's go up to 100. There, nice soft blur. And so now just the teal is selected. So I could turn the highlight function off. And now I can grade just this teal area by itself. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's make it a little more teal. You can see it's already changing it right there. Actually, I don't want to do it in the through-lit color corrector. Let me go ahead and reset that. I want to do it here in the log. Okay. And now I can do this here, or this is a visual representation way, or I can go here and control it like this. So I can go, That's nice. And then there. That's pretty much where I want to. I want to change the saturation maybe a little bit. I can do that. You can see it just completely breaks it. I'm sorry, that's hue. I can undo that. I can saturate it here, but I know I'm going to saturate the whole image evenly later on. So let me just bump it up just a tiny bit, like that, and then we'll leave it alone. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to go in, turn on the highlight function, and we're going to select just this amber color right here. Okay, that's a little much. And then we'll adjust it from there. Okay, I think I got a little too much of it. So let's go ahead and change the width. And what I'm doing here is, by changing the width, I'm changing the width of the color selection here at the top, and then I'm softening basically the edges on the bottom. So let's soften this up a little bit. And then this is the color itself, and then here we have the saturation and the luminance. Definitely want to soften up the luminance on the high end. Let's drag that out about. And then the low end. Okay. And that looks about correct. You can see I'm getting a little bit of noise and chatter. It's okay, I'm going to soften that up in a little bit. Let's see, let's change this to there we go, and soften it up. Soften it up on the low end, and this is softening up the luma. In other words, the amount of the color it's going to sample from that as the color that we selected as a midpoint. This color as a midpoint, and then it's going to, according to how we soften this up, it's going to gradually branch out on a gradient to different colors and different saturations and luminances. And it's definitely a good idea to soften this up, just so you get a nice, smooth selection. And you can see there's a lot of goofiness going on here. It's just really nasty. If I were to leave this alone as it is, you'd get a lot of chatter going on in here. So I want to soften this up. So I'm going to take the radius up to 100. You see that already softened it up. It's nice and smooth. And then kind of expand it a little bit because I want to get a little bit more of that amber color. So 58, maybe. No, a little too far. Let's go back. There. So now I can see his face right here is starting to pick up a little bit of his face, but not too much. So I'm gonna offset that. And of course I'm going to power window this. I already know I'm going to power window it later. But now I've got all that amber color selected. I can turn off the highlight, and now I can go in and start messing with it. So let's warm it up a little bit with our offset here. Okay, it's got a nice amount of red to it. Maybe add a little tiny bit of green, and definitely start taking some of the blue out. There we go. And let's boost the saturation a little. Maybe there, nice. And I think that's pretty much got it. If we turn this off, you see there's our amber selection. There's our teal correction. And that part's done. And we're going to move on. You can see it's all feeding into this parallel right here. And that will be the hardest part of this grade. From here on out, it's going to be pretty easy. Go here. I'm going to right click. We're going to go to Tone Monsters, and we're going to add Blue Steel. We're going to add Toner. we're going to add, actually we're going to add some density. And we're going to add the spectral enhancer. Okay. Now, you didn't see a lot of changes there at the end. That's because the toner really toned this stuff down. So let's go to steel blue. Let's go to our key. And actually, let's turn all the rest of these off. I'm going to back this off a little bit. You can see if the more I back it off, the more we get more of the original image. Okay, I think I want to go about halfway with this one. Let's turn the toner on. That's going almost completely black and white, so let's back that off quite a bit. We just want a touch of desaturation with a little bit of tone. This has got a little bit of brown in it, the toner does. And in fact, let's label these. Let's go blue steel. Let's go toner. This one was density. And this one was spectral enhancer. Change label. Okie doke. So the toner looks good. And we have some density. It's a little too dark. Just back it off. And the spectral enhancer, and that's going to be, whoa, that's way too much. It's a little too saturated. Let's back it off a little bit. And now we've got the, see now the correction that we did on the amber and the teal looks really, really nice, but his skin tone doesn't look good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this. I'm actually going to go here right after the toner. I'm going to select the toner, and I'm going to go node, add serial node, boom. There, it puts one between there and there. And this is where we're going to do our power window. So just to explain what we're going to do really quick, we're going to power window his face out from the grade. We're going to suck all this icky green, orangey skin out of his face. And then we're going to shove that through the pipeline into the density and the spectral. And that should give us something that looks a little bit better. But then we'll still retain this really nice deep amber on these back here and the teal without, because if we were to just adjust the whole thing and say, well, let's try and suck some green and a little bit of yellow out of this image, we would ruin this really great thing that we did here in the background. So we're going to do his face separately. So let's get ready to do that. Okay, so let's go to masks. Let's create a mask. Let's make it more oval shaped. Place it on top of his face, maybe something like that. Encompasses his head from head to chin. Grabbing this outside ring will feather it, and you can see down here, you can see the key, how it adjusts what we're actually selecting, and that should get him down here. And if I want to, I can go back to this, and I can select the highlight function, and we can see what exactly that it is we're selecting. So let's go to mask, and let's shrink it down a little bit. So we're just getting his face. Oops. And maybe rotate it a little bit to match the tilt of his head. Move it over. And there you go. That's our mask. So now we want to track it. Now here's the really great thing. We go to the tracker, and I want to track pan, zoom, tilt, and rotate. Just the clip. And I'm going to hit this button right here, and it's going to go through, and it's going to track everything. And it's done. It's done in real time. So now if we go back here, turn this off, you can see that we have a nice, let's go back to the mask so you can see it. It is tracked to our image now. Perfectly tracked. And now we can begin our correction. So we're going to do something here that I like to do, which is go to hue versus saturation. There's a drop-down menu. You have custom, soft clip, hue versus hue, hue versus saturation, hue versus luminance, and luminance versus saturation. And what these are is the custom curves is your curves button. The default is ganged, which means if I move one, they all move. I'm going to undo that. Or you can ungang them like that, and then if you move one, only that one moves. Let me put that back. But I mostly want to focus on this right here, which is hue versus saturation, which means I can take the saturation of all these individual colors across the color spectrum and change their saturation individually. So what I want to do is I want to create, I'm just going to click every single one of these buttons so that I have each color isolated. My goofy video card. And then I'm going to create a node right here in the orange, and I'm going to drop red. You can see that how that changes the image, and I'm going to drop the orange down even further. So you can see how it's affecting our image. If I turn it off, you can see we're starting to suck a lot of that ickiness out of his skin, but our mask isn't quite wide enough. So let's go back to the mask, and let's broaden this out, because our feathering is affecting it a little too much. There, I want to get that whole skin. Okay, and then back to the curves. And let's see, I'm going to bring the blue up a little bit. That should offset some of the skin tone. And going to click here and drop some of the magenta out. And there. That's pretty decent. If we move along, we can see we have a little bit of tinge here, which just means my mask isn't the right shape. Probably got too much feather on it, so let's bring it in. There we go. Perfect. And now if we look at it, still got a little splotchiness there, but we'll fix that here in a second. But here's the original. And now we've eliminated that sort of Oompa Loompa skin out of his face. Okay, so I still got a little bit of bleed here. I want to fix that, so I'm going to bring the feather in a little more, probably to about there. That's nice and smooth. Okay, and now I'm going to head back to our regular curves adjustments, and I'm going to make some little adjustments here. I'm going to add a little blue in the shadows here. Keep the green pretty much steady, but then suck it out from the midtones through the highlights. Grab a little green out of there. See his skin starting to look a little nicer. Let's make it, oops, I want to keep that straight. And just bump up the red a tiny bit. Ooh. And then give him a little bit more of a film curve on the face. Very, very gentle. Very, very gentle S-curve. There. And I've still got a little splotchiness, so let's go ahead and adjust that. Let's tighten this up so that we are nice and tight on his face. Maybe we expand that a little bit. And that should do it. Nice. Okay. So now we got a nice skin tone on his face. Everything else has that's secondary applied to it. And if we step through, you can see that mask sticks to his face, so we don't ever lose it. And that's essentially it. I mean, let's go ahead and compare it to the other one. Let's go, you can see that one's a little more dense. Oh, I know why, because it's the density overall. So let's go back here, and let's go into our density and maybe darken everything up a little bit overall. Give it a nice film curve, and then mix that down. Yeah. That's a nice grade. Now, from this point on, what we can do is we can export this. Let's say you have DaVinci running on your machine, but it's not running optimally. In other words, you have that same problem that I have with the video card, and you're like, well, I'd really love to port this into After Effects and render it there. Well, you can. Now the masks won't translate, and any gradients won't translate, but everything else will. So I can take this grade, I can right-click here, say Generate 3D LUT, and let's put it into my custom LUTs folder here. And we'll call it demo and save it. And then I could import that using the Apply Color LUT feature in After Effects. And if I want just this, what I could do is I could turn all these off. And do the same thing. Now, I'll have to create a power window for his face in After Effects, but I can generate a 3D LUT and just call it face power window and save it. And then I could go into After Effects and apply this just to the face, apply everything else to everything outside of the mask on the face, and I've got my grade. So even if I can't get DaVinci to work and render out for me, I can still use DaVinci to do my grade and then bring it into another program that actually will run on my machine. So that's essentially it. I didn't explain these. Let me go back and explain them a little bit better. In fact, let's go back to the other one because it looks a little prettier. So the teal obviously selects the teal color and allows me to color correct it separately. The amber selects the amber color and allows me to boost that separately. The steel blue is just it's the tone monster. What it does is it affects the highlights, midtones, and shadows with different colors, and gives me this really cool kind of steel blue, as if I were using a steel blue gel on some of the blue lights. The toner desaturates the image, but it's not just a pure desaturation. It's not just like a black and white desaturation. There's a little bit of brown in it, which allows you to tone the image. It looks, to me, it gives the skin tone. It's kind of the David Fincher approach. David Fincher likes to underexpose things. He also hates pink skin tone. I'm kind of in that same school of thought. I hate really pink skin tone. And toner helps eliminate that. As you see, this is very orangey skin tone, but it does the same thing. So it eliminates the orangey pink skin tone. That to me looks a little bit unnatural. The power window on the face to eliminate the greenish stuff, and then density to darken everything up a little bit, which is mixed way down, as you can see. If I double click it, it's mixed down to about 40%. And then the spectral enhancer, and the spectral enhancer just is what it does is it actually isolates. It does the same thing almost as this hue versus saturation. In fact, it does exactly the same thing as hue versus saturation, but it's a preset. And what I found is the spectral enhancer, to me, only enhances the colors that I want to enhance. There's three different ones. There's one that enhances yellow. This one goes for yellow, green, and I think red, but no magenta. And the other one, the second one, Spectral Enhancer 2, does blue and red and primarily, and then the third one does green and red primarily. And what it does is it allows you to boost the saturation. And the reason that the default spectral enhances the colors that it does is because in video I find that boosting the entire saturation across the spectrum of the image does some weird stuff with color smearing and pixelization and macro blocking, especially in highly compressed codecs, that when you don't boost those colors, you actually are able to boost the vibrance of the image without doing that. But you can go down and you can, let me turn this off and add a serial node. And let me just kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and turn all these on. And maybe boost this, the yellow, and maybe green. but and then blue but not magenta. So blue and maybe some cyan. But let's leave the red out of it. In fact, let's turn the red down. And then of course I can take the whole saturation and it's the master saturation and boost the whole thing. So it's almost the same thing. So if we were to turn this off and A/B it with the spectral enhancer, it's pretty much the same thing. So if you just want to take a screenshot of that, that's basically the spectral enhancer in a nutshell. That and a little bit of saturation boost. And of course, if I wanted to go really intense with it, I could turn the spectral enhancer off, come back to this one, and really boost the saturation. It's a little too much, but I mean, if that's the kind of look you're going for like a music video or something like that, absolutely, you can do that. And then let's say I were to boost it up like that, and then come over here to the key and say, okay, maybe that was a little too much. Let's back it off just a little bit. Just like that. And that's it. So gears work modularly. This is a node-based program, but in After Effects it would be with layers and just adjusting the opacity. In Final Cut it would be with LUT Buddy and just adjusting the mix with the slider. And in Premiere Pro it works just like in After Effects. It's with adjustment layers and with opacity. And that's ColorGear in a nutshell. That's the very, very basic. I didn't get really complex with it. Hopefully, if I wasn't explaining it to you, I could have done this in almost no time at all. But when I narrate, I tend to lose my train of thought. And so, but I think you can see how simple that is, how powerful it is, and how flexible it is. And of course, in another tutorial, I'll explain more about exporting to 3D LUTs and how to use them in After Effects and other programs. Unfortunately, the LUTs that you export out of DaVinci are not compatible with LUT Buddy. So you have to actually bring them into After Effects and re-export them into something that LUT Buddy can understand in order to be able to use them in Final Cut Pro or SpeedGrade or Premiere Pro. But that's just one tiny little step, and you don't even need After Effects yourself. You can actually go to a friend who has After Effects and import it there, import it into his program and export it, or him or her, out into something that you can read in LUT Buddy. So that's it for now. I will see you next time.